accidentally became a content creator because I was trying to navigate this whole becoming a therapist journey, and there were a lot of things that I wish that I had while I was actively going through it the first time. So I became that person. And I know it probably sounds a little dramatic, but hear me out. When I was in grad school, and even when I graduated, I felt like there were books everywhere. There was tons of information online. There were YouTube videos, there were TikToks, there wasn't a lack of information. But what I felt was missing was someone who knew exactly or could remember exactly what it felt like to be navigating becoming a therapist in real time. I really didn't need to hear somebody tell me to just study harder or just bombard me with their own thoughts and opinions on what I should do in terms of whether or not I should have taken a W-2 job or a 1099 job. I really felt like I needed somebody to explain things to me without assuming that I was already supposed to know what to do. And honestly, that's where all of this really started. A lot of people don't know this about me, but my counseling journey didn't start in Michigan. I was already working as a therapist in training in another state. I was building clinical hours, I was seeing clients. I was starting to finally feel like I was becoming the therapist that I always wanted to be. And then 2020 was a wild year to say the least, for a lot of people. And so when I moved back to Michigan is home for me, I figured out that my experience was not going to transfer in the way that I thought that it would. Michigan and Wisconsin were not reciprocal states, so all of the hours that I was collecting in Wisconsin did not count towards licensure in Michigan. And a lot of people were telling me, well, why didn't you apply for licensure through endorsement? But I wasn't a fully licensed clinician before I left Wisconsin, so I found myself having to navigate restarting the journey of becoming a therapist all over again. And I'll be honest, that was one of the hardest professional experiences that I have ever experienced. And I think that it goes beyond a professional experience because it really felt like a personal attack to everything that I had established and started for myself 2 years prior. And it wasn't because I was doubting myself as being a therapist, but it was the fact that I really felt like I lost all of my progress. I remember thinking why am I doing this again? I already did this. And so maybe some of you can relate to changing states before you complete your full licensure process and feeling like you got to start all over again. Or maybe some of you have experienced that feeling and maybe it wasn't in counseling, maybe it was in something else. Maybe life just didn't go the way that you were expecting it to go. So instead of jumping back into being a therapist, I became a classroom teacher and I did that for 4 years. And what's funny is that when I was teaching back then, I thought that it was just something that I was doing in the interim before I felt ready enough to jump back into the therapist role. I had no idea that those 4 years would literally prepare me for everything that I'm doing today. Teaching actually changed the way that I communicate with people. It taught me that people don't need you to sound impressive. They don't need you to bombard them with all this therapist lingo. They need you to make complicated things make sense. It really taught me how to break down ideas and make them understandable and manageable in a way that is personalized to every unique person. And so when I say every unique person, I'm talking about my little babies that I had in my classroom. And I didn't realize it then, but I really felt like teaching was helping me to develop skills different from the skills that I learned in grad school that I use with clients on an everyday basis. So eventually I found my way back into the therapist role, started to rebuild my hours. I took the NCE again and I passed it. Full transparency, I didn't pass on the first try. I took the exam right after moving back to Michigan, right after having a child, took it at home, I was so not focused and missed it by a couple points. And that furthermore delayed me from jumping back into the role of being a therapist. I was like, I am not about to do this all over again. I'm not about to stress about no tests. I'm not about to do these hours all over again. Let me do something else. Once I was ready though, I started to relearn the Michigan licensure process. And then something just kept happening. The more stuff that I was finding out, I felt like I was becoming more confused, even if I had just learned about it the week prior. I remember literally searching the internet, opening up 10 different tabs before I could figure out an answer to one question. And then I remember feeling like, okay, why do I think that everybody else knows what to do except for me? Then I also realized that I probably wasn't the only one who felt that way. And so that's when I started to make videos. I started posting on TikTok mainly. And it wasn't because I was trying to become an influencer. I was trying to become the resource that I wish that I had. It wasn't because I was trying to build a business. I honestly, at the time, wasn't thinking of any of that. I literally just wanted somebody to be able to walk along the journey with me. And in the process of doing that, building a community where people could bounce ideas off of each other, and not in the form of clinical supervision, no way, but in a way where we could just relate to one another as we navigated the process in real time. Because I think a lot of times many clinical supervisors are so far removed from the process that their mind is not on the little minute things that our minds are on. I wanted somebody to explain the NCE without making it impossible. I wanted to create study groups where we could come together and just figure out ways to navigate the NCE exam with strategy, because let's be honest, a lot of graduate schools are not created equal. So maybe one person was required to take the CPCE and they passed the NCE smooth sailing, but then you have people like me where my graduate program, we didn't have to take the CPCE. And so when I sat for the NCE exam the first time, I really didn't know what to expect. I felt like you can take all of the practice exams, you can have all of the study resources, all of the study banks, but if you don't know what to expect, how in the world can you approach that exam with strategy? Okay, so these are things that I was navigating, and I wanted other people to be exposed to just different ways to accomplish the same goal. I wanted somebody who was able to talk about supervision and how important it is to have a good supervisor as you are navigating your early counseling careers, okay? Like your early jobs, your positions, your careers, your theoretical orientations, if you have them, or if you know what you want to do, developing a niche if you feel like you are ready for that. Really just like the things that nobody is really explaining in graduate school outside of what's in the core curriculum. So honestly, every time I was learning something, I turned on my camera and I started posting on TikTok. Somewhere along the way, I noticed that something changed. I stopped creating videos just for me. I started to create videos for every future clinician who was sitting in the same position that I was. Overwhelmed, confused, questions that extended beyond supervision, wondering if somebody else had the secret roadmap that maybe I just didn't have access to. And if that's you, honestly, I promise that you are not alone. So what can you expect from this channel? Yeah, we're going to talk about the NCE. We're going to talk about ways to approach it with strategy, because at my core, I'm a therapist, but I'm also an educator, lifelong tag that I will gladly take wherever I go. We're going to talk about becoming a therapist. We're going to talk about your first therapy job. We're going to talk about whether or not you are connected to the right supervisor. We're going to talk about career decisions, private practice, grad school, a little day in the life, my PhD journey that I'm going to be starting in a couple weeks, counselor education and supervision, the wins, the mistakes, the lessons, the learning, and every now and then you may get a little beauty content, because I figured out also in this process that I'm really into that. That is genuinely something that I enjoy too, and a big part of becoming a therapist is figuring out what you like to do outside of the therapy room, because honestly, becoming a therapist is more than what you do in your office or in your space with your client, okay? We got to take care of ourselves too. But ultimately, no matter what the topic is, I hope that everyone who comes to this channel and to this page gets what they need. I want you to feel a little less overwhelmed than what you did before you clicked on my videos. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video today, you don't have to have everything figured out right now in order to become an incredible therapist. You're becoming one every single day. If you're in grad school, every class, every supervision session, if you are an emerging clinician and you are in your supervision era, every client, every question, every mistake, and every time you choose to keep learning, you are becoming. And if I can make this journey feel a little less lonely for anybody else, then that's exactly why I am choosing to continue to show up. So if you're becoming a therapist too, welcome. I'm really glad that you are here. And I can't wait to grow alongside of you. And if you've been around a while, you're probably wondering, wait, wasn't this the girl behind the Emerging Therapist Collective? Yeah, it's me, one and the same. And honestly, I sat with that decision for a while because I do love the name and the mission behind that name. Then I realized people are not connecting with the logo. They're connecting with the person. And at the end of the day, behind every video, I am me, okay? Instead of posting behind a brand, I wanted to post as myself, as I'm navigating different things in this emerging journey, because it's still emerging. I've got, a year now until I'm fully licensed, and I want this space to feel more personal. Like we are sitting down, having a one-on-one conversation. The mission hasn't changed. If anything, I feel like it's becoming more personal. I'm still passionate about helping and supporting other future clinicians. I just feel like right now, the best way for me to do that is by letting you all know who is the person beyond the brand or the name, okay? And so welcome to Hey Shayla Therapist. I'm really excited you are here. And so until next time, remember to like and subscribe so that you get notifications about my next videos, and I can't wait to see you there.